everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how does emotionally focused therapy work. So the first thing to know about emotionally focused couple therapy is that it is broken up into 3 different stages of the therapy process. The first stage is really about decreasing the distress in the couple relationship. So oftentimes there's just so much conflict when couples first come in. Everything feels so painful and rough that we really want to get that sort of down and under control to begin with. Oftentimes when this is happening, couples are stuck in a communication pattern where pretty much all of their fights have the same sort of format to it. So sometimes that is sort of this criticize defend loop where once somebody hears something that sounds critical, then they get defensive, and then when one person is defensive, the other one gets defensive, and then they just keep going around in this criticize defend loop. There are others. There's one that's where both people are just sort of shutting down, not talking. This is kind of like the roommate pattern. And then there's another pattern where usually one person is trying to talk and the other one shuts down, and then they sort of get stuck there. If you want more information about the different patterns, feel free to check out the blog post that is listed below in the show notes so you can learn more. So stage 1 is all about helping couples understand the pattern that they're caught in, start communicating in a new and better, different way in order to decrease all of the distress that they're feeling. Stage 2 is where we go a lot deeper. So if there is any sort of big betrayal in the relationship or really big hurts that haven't been addressed, this is where we would work on healing those. And then stage 3, the last thing about stage 2 is that we really solidify a brand new pattern. So that way the new pattern is really solid, helps you feel closer together, more connected, on the same team, on the same page, create this new sort of communication pattern and really get that solid. And then stage 3 is sort of like, look how far you've come, these are all the skills you've learned, how can you keep using that to address other things that come up in life. So this is sort of the outline of what treatment looks like. Once you have a new pattern and it's sort of solid, it's into a habit mode now, then you can end the therapy process and just keep using it. So what does, or sort of like what to expect in the first few sessions. So the first 4 sessions of emotionally focused couple therapy are really about assessment and getting to know your therapist, because across all types of therapy, the number 1 predictor of success is that you click with the person you're working with. And so when there's a couple, you both really need to click with that therapist. The first session is usually the 2 of you together, like all 3 of you, the couple and the therapist is going to ask a lot about kind of your relationship history, what made you fall in love, and what are the concerns that you both have and the goals that you both have for couples counseling. Then the therapist will meet with you each one-on-one, so that's session 2 and 3, and that's where the therapist will ask things like, what was it like growing up in your family? Anything that they should know about how your family life was and your childhood was, or anything about previous romantic relationships. How they went, were they good, were they rocky, what was good about them, what was not great about them, and if there are any personal things like if you have any health conditions or individual mental health concerns that are popping up in the relationship, this would be a time that your therapist might be asking about those. The 4th session is the 3 of you together again, and the therapist in the fourth session is probably going to give a summary of the major themes found throughout the whole assessment process. And depending on how long that summary takes, they might start working with you on that communication pattern that you both have going on. So after the assessment session, what does a normal working EFT session look like? So the therapist is going to be kind of looking out for, in the conversation, when does your pattern pop up? So let's say you have a criticize, defend loop going on. In the session with the therapist is going to be looking, okay, is this criticize, defend loop happening right now in our session? If so, he or she, because you have a male EFT therapist, he or she will pause the discussion, point out that that pattern is happening, and then work with one of you at a time. And so let's say partner A, the therapist will then say, okay, partner A, tell me what's going on the inside. Tell me about the emotions. And they're going to try to get sort of underneath what's going on in the criticism or the defensiveness to try to help you share about what's happening at an emotional level versus just going into a criticize, defend sort of loop. After you've sort of figured out with the therapist what's going on emotionally on the inside, they'll have you practice sharing this with your partner. And this is where you're practicing new communication skills to eventually help with build a new pattern. Because as you share with your partner, hopefully they're helping you share something new and share something different that leads to a better outcome between the two of you. They'll sort of talk about how was it for both of you to have one person share in this new and different way, and then compare and contrast what just happened to how that sort of negative criticize, defend loop goes on. And then they'll do the same thing with partner B. So then they'll say, oh, okay, partner B, tell me about what was happening on the inside of you when you got defensive. And we'll sort of go underneath the defense, figure out what's going on emotionally, work on communicating that in a brand new way to your partner, and then process again with both people. How was it? Did this feel like it led to a better outcome? And if it did, then let's really talk about what was different when you shared it this way. So this is kind of a normal flow of a typical EFT therapy session. So how do you know when you're done with EFT couple therapy, and what will you be able to do at the end after you've completed all of this EFT couple therapy? So at the end of EFT couple therapy, not only do you kind of like understand what was driving the negative communication pattern and leading to so much conflict or tension, but you also know how to prevent it. If that loop does come up again, you also know how to get out of it. Couples are usually able to share and communicate in a much more clear and direct manner. They're able to listen. Both partners end up feeling like they can be heard and that their partner understands their point of view. They feel like at this sort of end stage of therapy, they tend to feel like they can give and receive empathy and validation from each other, and that they sort of have an internal feeling that my partner is going to be there for me, that they care, and that they accept me for who I am. So if you have more questions about how does emotionally focused couple therapy work, I'm happy to answer them. You can post them in the comments below, or you can schedule a free consult with me through ElizabethPolinskyCounseling.com.